So I'm thinking, what y'all doing on March 19th? You need to be coming to the Oddity Bar to see Naja Nicole and me, G-Jones, be oddly dope. Knowing me, typically, I say, give me a word and I give you a poem, and then someone will say,
Sade. I'm thinking, I'm thinking, I'm thinking I was probably conceived by the sweetest taboo. I mean, honestly, I could ask my mama, but she probably wouldn't tell me the truth. And by the time my dad left, I really don't know who could make me so confused about what an ordinary love looked like. Fine.
hold on, we ain't even gonna do them that way. This is such a feel-good time presented by the Delaware Music Network, sponsored by the Delphi Group, so you can get your Up and Smoke tickets live on site that day. Now, Naj, go ahead, because you always got something to say. Hey, yo, G-Dash, boy, take your hat off. Fine. This week on Hats Off with G-Jones.
Yeah, buddy, you don't know what it is. I'm about to tell you what it is. Oh, you already know. It's about that time. Ooh, it's time for an episode of Hats Off. Oh, with your boy. That's a fact. G-Jones. What? Yes. You are in tune for another wonderful episode of Hats Off with G-Jones. As we are here 7:30 p.m. every week on IG Live. Listen, just G-Jones, spell out the dash. Follow me on IG. The replay will be available on YouTube. So you'll be able to check that out in case you miss a thing. It'll be there at some point. You got peep for that. Now, with that said, before I bring on our amazing guest, Zoe Pachel from the Delaware. Oh, before I bring her up, I gotta let y'all know some things. So first of all, shout out to everybody who came out to the Delaware Music Network open mic jam session. LaShawn Janelle, LJ Walsh, Latoya Marie, the Upper Level Band, everybody that performed. Ooh, Gretchen Emmerich. Ooh, listen. Shout out to all of y'all at the new location, the Wilmington Library. I listen. We there the first Wednesday of every month. So by all means, come on out at the Wilmington Library right downtown. Listen, it was a vibe. It's a vibe. That's what we do every time. I ain't even get to see it all off, but I got to set it off. Okay. Also, me being me, I gotta let y'all know. Shouts out 317. Delaware Music Network, we gonna have Tony Trower live at the Rock. What? That's Tony Trower live at the Rockford Tavern. Ooh, 317, you know she got the vocals. If you don't know the soulful sultry, they call that those some sultry sounds. Okay? 317, that's at the Rockford Tavern. I'm almost done, I promise. And then I gotta leave. I can't forget about me. So me, yes, me. I'm going to be, oh man, on Oddly Dope. It's going to be me and Naja Nicole. Like, when I say me and Naja Nicole, it's going to be a whole experience, okay? Because she's going to sing some things. I'm going to speak some words, but it's going to have a whole little experience. We're going to massage them together. What? It's going to be a massage. Yes, it's going to be a mental masseuse. Bars. Listen, you're going to have a great time. Come on out to Oddly Dope. You're going to dance. You're going to smile. You're going to kick it. You have a great time. That's 3/19. Okay, that's March 19th on Sunday at the Oddity Bar. Doors open at 5. Oh, and we'll be rocking. It's going to be a good old time. Side note, and just so you know, yes, that is brought to you by the Delaware Music Network, but it's sponsored by the Delphi Group. Who the Delphi Group? Well, they're part of the team putting together Up in Smoke. What? Up in Smoke. That's a fact. Up in Smoke. That's, if you don't know about Up in Smoke, I'm hosting Up in Smoke. Up in Smoke is April 28th to the 30th, and they gonna have some tickets on the spot, right? So you gonna come to Oddly Dope, you gonna peep me do my thing, right? You gonna see Naja Nicole with the vocals, okay? And then you gonna cop yourself a Up in Smoke ticket, cause that's a vibe. They gonna have Harvey Road doing a crazy set up there. They're gonna have Matt Bender. It's gonna be food. Man, listen, it's gonna be a good vibe Up in Smoke as well. But first, come see me, 319 Oddly Dope. All right, then y'all know what we gonna do. Listen, it's gonna be a good vibe. All right. With that said, I think it's time for me to bring up, right, what I like to call the liaison to legislation. Okay. I know what you're thinking. All right. The admirable advocate. All right. Yes. I think you know where I'm going with this. The amazing leader.
Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network. Yeah, that's all the words. That's what I'm bringing up right now. Again, I welcome everybody to meet Zoe Patel. There we go.
Hey,
What?
fix my sign here. Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me on, G.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. I like that sign right there. That sign's sexy too. I need one of those. I'm lying. I got one. I ain't gonna lie. I got one. I do. Okay.
Okay, we have plenty for you. I'll make sure you get one.
Yes. So, well, I called you the liaison of legislation, and I gave you all these titles, but as the leader of the the Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network, tell people about yourself, Zoe.
Well, so I'm the executive director of Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network. I'm an activist. I've been an activist for 12 years now on cannabis legalization and a number of years on a number of other issues. I'm one of the co-founders of the Delaware Cannabis Movement here in the state of Delaware. I was a co-founder of Delaware Normal, and from there, a lot of people don't realize, but Delaware is not like other states that have legalized, where we don't have voter initiative, like most of the other states. There goes my son. So we had to start a lobby organization so we could start lobbying our elected officials, because the only way to pass legalization in Delaware is through the legislature. So we started Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network in 2016, and we've been leading the effort to legalize cannabis for adults 21 and older, for adult use, for home cultivation, legalize the market, allow legacy operators to be involved and participate in the market, and obviously, above all, end the arrests, end the stops, end the searches, and legalize this all-natural, non-toxic plant.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So I want to peel that back, right? Because listen, I'm all for this non-toxic plant. I'm a fan, if people can't tell. So I feel like here's how I feel about this situation. My question is this: back up. So Delaware didn't already have lobbyists, if you will, and lobbyists are just people who kind of fight for the right of an issue, right? Like that's how we would explain lobbyists to people. They fighting for the government for issues.
Well, I think we're a lot different than regular lobbyists. We're all volunteer. Nobody in our organization gets paid. We do this in our spare time. We all have day jobs that we do other things. We're just concerned citizens that have band together and are doing things the only way that we're able to in the state of Delaware, because we don't have voter initiative. So yeah, we are lobbyists because the state has made us register as lobbyists, but we're citizen lobbyists. We're not seen as, the regular lobbyists. We're citizens fighting for our rights, and for our freedom. So.
Okay. So right. So now, as a concerned citizen myself, because I've been concerned, I've been at the rallies. Listen, I done said some words. I did all types of things. So, and you put these things together. How did you kind of get into advocacy? Like, how'd you wind up into this space and put it together? How'd you get there?
Phew, how much time do we have?
Well,
first of all,
give me a handful version. Give me a handful version. Just a handful.
Yeah. First, I want to say, because you mentioned it, that you have been such an amazing speaker at so many of our events, and we're so honored to have you. I mean, you've done all our repeal dates. You did our override rally, which is a historic rally when we called for the override of the veto, of the governor's veto last year. I mean, you have been in the thicket, in the trenches with us, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for us. But yeah, so what got me into this? I mean, I've been a consumer most of my life. I mean, we don't advocate for people consuming underage, but I mean, I started smoking when I was 14 years old. I'm 41, about to be 42 now. Smoke weed every day. And it's safer than alcohol. It's safer than so many things. Like many, I was put on pharmaceuticals for depression and anxiety, and that made me, feel like a zombie. I couldn't exist. I couldn't, function. But cannabis, you know, like Bob Marley says, the herb reveals yourself to yourself. And like for me, cannabis, you can smoke it and medicate in terms of, if you have depression, anxiety, anything like that, but it doesn't mask your problems. You know, it allows you to work through your problems and like introspectively, like think about problem solving and how to okay, I'm depressed. What's making me depressed? What is the root of the depression? Instead of just putting that medication on there, oh, everything's copacetic, So like for me, it was part that. It was part the criminal justice system, as many have been. I was impacted as a juvenile and young adult for simple possession offenses and things like that. So, I mean, it's just a gamut of things. And then, when I started college, then there's all this research in, some of these books that show the safety of cannabis, that it's safer than alcohol, that it's safer than pharmaceuticals, that we have an endocannabinoid system in our body, that's why you can't overdose from cannabis or anything like that, and it helps regulate your sleep, mood, appetite, and all the things that we know cannabis does. And that's a system in your body like a nervous system. So you have all this research. You have research showing that it helps with all these medical, issues, all these health issues. But then you have people going to jail for a plant that's so helpful, So it's like, what is happening here? And, the more research you do, the more you go down that rabbit hole, you can't go back. And you're like, and for me at this point, it's an obligation. Everything that I know, I have to get out. I have to tell people. I have to educate people, because this is one of the most, this plant, there's such big misconception around this plant and what it is and what it does. And at the same time, people are being criminalized. Their entire lives are being ruined. I know you met Joseph. He's done 17 years of his life for just a possession offense. There was no sales that were, ever. He wasn't selling. So it's just like you have the research, you have the benefits, and then you have the control from the government where they're locking people up and taking people's lives, taking people's money, civil asset forfeiture, like where they can take your home, they can take your car, they can take your kids over a plan that's safer than alcohol, safer than pharmaceuticals the doctors are pushing. So, I mean, I'm real passionate about this. There's a million reasons more than that, but that's kind of the gist of summing up.
So I'll say this, right? Because you mentioned me speaking at the situations. I'll tell you, I asked you why you speak at yours. I'll say why I speak as well. I actually like to convey the point across that even as things kind of progress, we still wind up having some issues. And I personally feel like, I've known folks who got locked up and had to do real time because they had a little herb on them. Like, it wasn't even that deep. Like, we're doing this? Are we serious? Or you got to come out of pocket and pay for lawyers for something that like the fight. Different. Like, I've just seen it. I've seen the fake. Oh, I smell something now. I need to search you. Come on, you playing with me, right? Okay. So like that's kind of why I try to make sure to make a message, because I've seen the persecution hit people in ways where it was like, yo, now either they fighting for their life or they just going through just unjust circumstances. I've been through some stuff like you just go through things where it's like this isn't right. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially when you're right for the theory of what we've seen alcohol do. The other side, I've seen people be on opiates, and only way that they kind of got off of that addiction was because they were able to deal with THC. Like, it's wild. So I have to kind of ask you, kind of as I think about all of that. So you got into the advocacy world. How'd you wind up, or what's your experience like with actually kind of leading those charges now? Like, and how is that different? Because like, there's a difference between, like, I'm an advocate. I speak at some rallies and stuff, but like, you really kind of are the leader of one of the groups. So what's that experience like?
Wow. I think I'm going to follow your lead and inspiration and eventually write a book about it, honestly. I mean, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, nationally, we're being called, one of the most difficult states to legalize. We've been abandoned by even our allies, where there's just no funding in this. So we've had to, run this campaign with absolutely no funding. It's just literally citizens, petitioning their government to change the law. I mean, it's been difficult. I mean, we've been in the trenches of this for 10 years. And when I say, like, we're basically the driving force for the legalization effort. There's nobody else. There's no other there's organizations that are part of our coalition. We have 25 different organizations. But I'm saying, like, it's the citizens that are pushing this. It's not, some kind of business or some kind of outside organization or something. It's the Delaware citizens, the people that live here in the state, that, like I said, work every single day, take time out of their day from their families and from their lives, to try to end this failed, costly policy. So it's been a trip, to say the least.
So okay, I didn't send you this one, but I'm gonna ask it, Zoe, because you said some things and it makes me want to ask questions. This is controversial here, so I'm just listening. Okay, but I'm gonna ask it. If the citizens and the people say that it should be legal, and financially, I saw what Jersey made in that first year. My goodness, business wise, it says it should be legal, and melancholy wise, energy wise, it says it should be legal. Why do you think in Delaware, where legislative wise, it got voted legal and got vetoed? Why do you think it's not legal?
Well, I mean, there's a number of reasons. First and foremost, we're the underdog. The citizens are the underdog here in the state. Without voter initiative, and not just for legalization, but for no issue, there's no binding voter referendum. So other states, you see, they go to the ballot, vote on issues, like we don't have that. And the legislature knows that they have the power. Now, part of the issue is with the legislation, because Delaware state constitution requires a 2/3 supermajority for any bill that includes taxes or licensing fees. So when they create this legal market, it's a 15% tax. It's as low as we can get it, and it's actually lower than most states or comparable. So it's not that bad of a tax rate, but it also creates licensing fees. We've tried to, persuade them to do it every way to not include those things, but it's just not a reality. And because those things are included, it requires a greater vote threshold than most legislation. So, like, on a national level, you might be familiar with it. It's like a filibuster type of, thing where it requires more votes. So it was only recently that we got the bills basically split. The bill, there's two bills now. HB1, which removes the civil and criminal penalties for cannabis, and it'll end the searches, it ends the stops, like you were saying earlier. People are being pulled over, and based on the real or even alleged or imagined, accusation of a law enforcement officer that they smell weed. They don't even have to really smell it. And we've even had law enforcement officers say that it's just a tactic they use when they want to search somebody and circumvent our Fourth Amendment constitutional protections. So that bill does all that. The other bill that creates the market, it still needs the 2/3 supermajority vote, but because we've now separated the bills, the bill that will repeal the civil and criminal penalties, that will end the stops, end the searches, end the probable cause and things like that, will only need a simple majority. That's only half the story. The other half is that there's a lot of political bullshit that's going on behind the scenes with the legislature, with the governor, with some of the leadership in the House and things like that. So I don't know how much details you want me to get into, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that, particularly for our veto last year. The governor and Speaker of the House, Pete Schwarzkopf, were the ones that basically orchestrated what we call a coup to make sure that HB2 didn't pass, the equivalent of HB2 didn't pass last year. It was a whole convoluted mess. It was politically driven. And the short answer is that the legislature doesn't have the citizens and the will of the citizens at heart, of which 70% support cannabis legalization and have for almost a decade. So, I mean,
Okay.
Talk to it. To sum it up.
Okay, every once in a while on this show, I take what the guest gives me and then I give it to the crowd in little bits, just so that anybody who's watching can understand. You let me know if I got you right. Right? I like to make a learning moment out of it. So essentially, the way that it works, and I didn't even think we had a voting issue in this state, but we do. So I think that the way it sounds is because the way that the bills came out last year, when we was trying to vote to make everything legal, and it looked like it was about to be legal here last year. Essentially, what happened was the way the bill was had to break it up. Right? They start moving the goalposts and they say, hey, if we pass it this way, you're gonna need that. Adding different things that loops that people have to jump through just to try to get this bill voted for. Once it actually got voted for, then vetoed it. Right? So kept moving the goalposts and then you shut it down. And now the space and the reason kind of why it was even able to be shut down and re-voted on is because it winds up being out of the people's hands. Shouts out to Hanif Salam because he be fighting for a lot of this stuff too. It's just the amount of rights that are in our hands. I didn't realize this was a voters' right issue on the low. Right? We think of it as a cannabis issue, but there's a whole side issue with how much control we have over what's actually happening in our areas. And we don't know it because it's hidden. And truth be told, a lot of stuff kind of go the way, so the people move. But that's why I say, hey, it matters to state and local elections because you don't realize that some of that stuff be on the back. Like you got to flip the joint over, right? And read kind of how they got some of this stuff hidden because you don't realize how that stuff is moving. So now we split those bills up from last year, all that situation. So now you got the money went over here, and you got the stop and search joint over here, right? HB1 stop and search and all that foolishness, and then HB2 is hey, how do we get this bread? How do people get that money off of it so that we can legalize the finance, if you will, right? And that's kind of how it separates now. Am I doing good?
100%. You got that
100%. Okay. So now, here's my question. So why do people think that it's legal here now? Is that because it's medicinally legal? Like tell me what's legal about this now, and how does that work?
Oh, if I had $1 for every time I got asked that question, you would have enough money to legalize. But everyone is already legal. I'm like, where do I get it then? I mean, in a store, where can I go to a store and get it? Like I know where to get it otherwise. But I'm saying, when can I go to a store and get it? But I think that's probably the media, because we've had this is our 6th set of legalization bills in 6 years. So we passed committee with each one of those, but only one of them made it out of the House last year, and that's the one that got vetoed. So when they see, headlines that say pass committee, pass this, that, and the other, pass the House, I think that there's a misconception of how, legislation works here in Delaware. So they read that headline and they think, like it's already passed. But in fact, we've only passed one leg of the journey through the legislature. So right now, HB1 and HB2 both passed a House committee, and that was in the news, so people may have read that, but they haven't been voted on in the House yet. And then, so when they go back into session, actually next Tuesday, we're pushing for a vote. So that's one of the things we're asking people to do, is to call your elected officials and call for a vote on HB1 and HB2. They return to session next Tuesday. This could be over by 420, and we could all have a happier 420.
Right.
Then as soon as they pass out of the House, we have to start the process over again in the Senate. And we're going to need people to come to Senate committee and give public testimony like you have done for us many times. And then we have to go through the Senate, and then we're also going to need people to call the governor as well, because obviously, like last year, he vetoed the legislation. So we need to put pressure on him. Call your elected officials, call the governor, let them know you're one of the 70% of Delawareans who want them to stop blocking common sense legislation and legalize cannabis.
Okay. So now, so my next question with that is, so does medicinal use mean something? Like what is medicinal here? Or is that not a thing here?
So medical cannabis passed in 2011, and it includes a number of ailments, including like cancer, HIV, ALS, MS, pain, things like that. There's been a number of amendments that we actually helped pass as well, that have included other conditions to the list of qualifying conditions. But the problem that we have with medical cannabis here in the state of Delaware is that, first of all, the program was stalled from day one with then Governor Markell, who basically shut the program down before it even started. And then when it inevitably did roll out, it rolled out as a limited license market. And what that basically is where we have these gigantic multi-state operators that have been able to get a stronghold in other legal states, and they've created basically this cannabis empire where they can come and buy up licenses in other states and monopolize the market. And what they're doing here in the state of Delaware, we actually call them the medical cannabis cartel because they're all working together. There's only six of them in the entire state right now. And because there's only six of them, and they're controlling the market the way that they are in an oligopoly, we have high prices that completely price low-income patients completely out of the market. And I mean, there's just so many problems with it. I mean, basically, Delaware cannabis patients are paying some of the highest prices in the country for medical cannabis because of the way this program was rolled out and the red tape that DHSS continues to have the stronghold on this program. So, I mean, there's so many inherent programs with the Delaware medical cannabis program, plus the fact that a lot of medical cannabis, or well, rather unlicensed medical cannabis patients, might not even be able to get a license here in the state of Delaware because it's too cost prohibitive. If you don't have, a medical history because you haven't had medical insurance to access our very costly healthcare system, you won't have the records to give to DHS for them to approve you, because you have to have long-standing that you've had this issue, that you've tried other treatments and things like that. So basically, they would rather people, try opiates and other harmful pharmaceuticals before ever trying cannabis. So it's a prohibitive program. It's cost prohibitive for low-income patients. It's being controlled by a handful of very wealthy multi-state operators, and that's not what we're trying to do with adult use legalization. We've now actually been dueling with the medical cannabis dispensaries, or the cartel as we call them, because they're actually lobbying against cannabis legalization here in the state of Delaware. And we've heard just as recently that, because our prime sponsor, Representative Ed Ozinski, won't budge and won't give them their the language that they want, which basically protects their private businesses and gives them first dibs in the market where nobody else will be able to sell weed except for them for the first 2 years, basically. Because our co-sponsor won't budge and give in to them, I'm hearing that they're now going to the governor because they think that the governor is a pressure point that they can put on, where they're now lobbying for less licenses and, like I said, priority licenses where they're able to sell first. So we have some problems here with our limited license market. And I just want to say, and I know I'm talking too much, but it's really important, not that we just legalize cannabis, but how we legalize cannabis and who's able to participate, because this needs to be open to everybody, especially people that have been impacted by cannabis prohibition, especially communities that have been disproportionately impacted, and especially legacy operators, people that have already been doing this, people that have been selling weed for years, people that have been in this industry, that have been, selling to consumers and, creating this market for decades, while, our calls for legalization have been ignored.
Okay, listen, I love everything that you said. That was okay. So here's what I'm thinking, right? As I hear that, essentially, it sounds like because of, I guess, kind of all the red tape
that kind of goes into that medicinal, and it's like the La Costa Nostra out there. You know, they moving deep, and they don't want competition because they know if you open up the market, and you know, my cousin so and so may names remain nameless. You know what I'm saying? Get in that market, he might know that plant better than they know that plant, right? And I don't want you to be knowing my product better than me. So don't be coming around here knowing my product better than me. So instead of them thinking about that, it's like you know, they're like, hold on now, with Walmart and with Target, I don't even want a Target. It's just going to be a Walmart. You know what I'm saying? They want the monopoly, and that's why it's and they're even trying to stomp on the kind of it being moved at free will, and of course, you know, it helps a systemic move too. So I listen. So I'm understanding it. I gotta ask though. I am kind of curious. Are any of the dispensaries black owned? Is there a black owned dispensary?
No, there's not one single black-owned dispensary in the state of Delaware. Now, there's language in our current legalization bills that require not only that there are black-owned dispensaries, but there's actually social equity licenses in HB2. So it's so there's social equity and there's small business license, which make up 75% of the 75 of the first 125 licenses. And the social equity licenses are specifically for people that live in a disproportionately impacted area, or people that have had a past offense, or the spouse or the child of somebody who has had a past offense. And that comes with 60% off of the licensing fee. So they're going to be paying $1,000 every 2 years for their licensing fees. There's also technical assistance. There's a number of programs that are going to be put into place to make sure that the people trying to get in this industry that have been affected by cannabis prohibition or disproportionately impacted living in that area of disproportionately impacted areas will be able to get into the license and navigate this very complex market and compete with these giant multi-state operators as well. So we're excited about a lot of that language. Back to the medical dispensaries, I just wanted to say that real quick. With the medical dispensaries, there was some language that they tried to adopt from our current piece of legislation and the previous versions of it. And the medical cannabis program under DHSS, under Delaware's Health and Human or Social Services, basically they're trying to say that they hit each of those earmarks, which was women-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned. But the minority that does own one of the dispensaries is actually Raj McCurjick, who's actually a New Jersey assemblyman for New Jersey. So, you know, this is once again back to like the politics of everything and whatnot. He actually owns a number of dispensaries throughout New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and now Delaware. This is actually his second license here in the state of Delaware. But there's not one single black-owned medical cannabis dispensary in the state of Delaware, despite the fact that Delaware is the 15th highest in the nation for racial disparities, and you know, black consumers are arrested at a rate 4 times higher than white consumers. So,
listen, I ain't gonna lie, you ain't gotta tell me, but we do want to tell them. So I hope y'all heard that, y'all, because she talking the gospel right now. She telling you, listen, I don't want to be the one to say it. I want her to be the one to say it, because I need y'all to hear it, right? Because that is pure facts. And I want to give a shout out to Raj. Raj was able to do some, I don't know who Raj is. Raj, you did some, go ahead, you, Raj. And whoever, and the female owner, go ahead, you, for owning. But we need some competition, and we need some skin in the game. Some skin in the game. See what I did there? Okay. Now, as I'm saying,
especially since, you know, the majority of the people that are sitting in jail for this right now, you know, are black or minority. So why are we seeing a market that's so different than who's being arrested? You know, when we're seeing disproportionate arrests, you know, like, so basically the people are sitting in jail for the exact same thing that these medical cannabis dispensaries are doing right now, you know?
Well, okay, now I am curious with that. So
Now, because of what the law says and how that works, how effective is calling? And I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Because you get a generation who are a cell phone generation who aren't really used to feeling like calling places matters. But like the statement is, call your local legislative, call your governor, call this, call that. How does the call help?
We need to put as much pressure on them as possible. Like I said, we're the underdog. We're the citizens of Delaware. We don't have a lot of power. We certainly have no money whatsoever. So what we do have is numbers, strength in numbers. And, for every 10 people that pick up a phone and call their lawmakers over at Legislative Hall, it feels like a huge point of pressure just for 10 people to call one legislator. If we could get, 50 people to call all the legislators, this will be legal by the end of March, and we certainly pressure on the governor. I think that there's this understanding that after the veto that this movement would kind of go away. It would go up in smoke, right? Like it would just disappear. People would stop doing this. And we need to let them know we're not going anywhere. There's actually 18% or 1 in 5 Delawareans admit to consuming. And you don't have to be a consumer to support this, just like you don't have to have breast cancer to support breast cancer awareness. This is a criminal justice issue, and cannabis prohibition is the gateway to the criminal justice system. So we need people speaking out. We need people joining the movement. We're gonna have some lobby days coming up in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully a bill vote. Like I said, we're asking everyone to call for a vote on HB1 and HB2, and ask your lawmakers to prioritize both those bills and get this over with.
So I'm gonna say something, because here's how I gotta go back to how I heard it in the way that I want the people to hear it. So essentially, and I even read this on my screen at one point. It said like 10 votes is equal to 500 in latest legislative eyes or ears, because what happens is when you call, it means so much, because to them they feel like you took the time to actually make that effort and you're an actual true voter. So now they see that you're somebody, you're not just somebody who smokes weed and complains about it. Oh shoot, you might do something. Fine. Like you might adjust your vote. You might make a move that could affect me as a lawmaker. So because you took the time to call, you now have a little bit of a leeway with you. Like, oh, well, okay, they care. Like, it's kind of like when you write the letter. Like, people play around with, like, oh, you wrote a letter. But if you took the time to write that letter, write that email, to make that, if you took the time to take that step, they then value the fact that your opinion matters more, because you will take a step. They know you might do something. And now that's when those lawmakers got to listen, because if too many people say they're going to do something, remember, like I ain't going to lie, when you said this, it made me like, like you said, like we the underdogs as the citizens, right? We're the underdogs as the people, because as the majority of the people, right? The underdogs as the majority of the people, because the guess is that, oh, y'all ain't really going to do nothing. Right, and that's the decision that y'all ain't. It won't really affect the vote. You know what I mean? It won't really, change how we decide to divvy up the bread. We good. Like that's kind of how they look at it, grand scheme. So that's why the call is important, or the email is important, and taking that action is important, because otherwise they don't believe you mean it. Is that right?
Yeah, and there's all types of businesses and organizations throughout Delaware. Well-funded organizations, law enforcement organizations that are lobbying against this. So these are well-funded, established organizations that, have had 20, 30, 40 years of relationships in that building. Whereas, us being citizens, they don't hear from citizens very often. They hear from what you said earlier, the typical lobbyists, that represent these companies and these, organizations and law enforcement and different agencies and whatnot. So they have to hear from the people. I mean, it's stand up, get up, like you got to, like they have to hear from the people. We have to use our voices and not be quiet. We can't go into, the dark. We have to stay, vocal and diligent to make sure that they do their jobs.
Absolutely. Shouts out to https://ledges. I'm gonna put it down there somewhere because the way I say ledges is weird. Be like ledges, Delaware.gov, ledges.delaware.gov/find my legislator. All right, I would probably just go to Google and type Delaware find my legislator and see if it come up because that's just how I move sometimes. But I feel either way, should hopefully get you there. Now, okay, if you do reach out, you can call the offices directly, call the legislators directly. Just look at the information, and the fact that you put in that effort, that means it's going to carry some weight there. With that said, what advice would you want to give somebody who's like lost and trying to? I want to get into, they want to get into consistent advocacy. What advice would you give somebody who wants to get to that work?
Well, join our organization. We're doing, we do monthly meetings. We do bi-weekly strategy meetings, to organize and try to get this finally taken care of here in Delaware. We have all types of different events. Like I said, we're going to have some lobby days coming up. We really encourage everyone to come down to the bill votes, which we're hoping are by the end of this month. So look for stuff on our social media and our website about that. We also have community service projects. We're doing a beach grass plant on March 18th. And we have our 10th annual Global Cannabis March on Saturday, May 6th at 3 p.m. in Rehoboth. This is our 10th year participating in the Global Cannabis March, which includes 40 countries, 200 cities worldwide that stand up for their rights and say no to prohibition, and use, like we were saying, like the citizens to try to, protest against these harmful policies that are destroying people's lives. So we ask people to come join us. It's a great day. We'll have a number of things that, like committee votes and things like that. There's just so much going on. There's literally something to do every single week. And if you really want to get involved, volunteer. There's so much to do. Activism isn't a spectator sport. I mean, we're kind of like drowning right now in terms of like work and what's needed to actually overcome the many challenges to actually get this passed. And we need as much help as we possibly can get.
Absolutely. And I gotta highlight that because as it's been said, find somebody in the world and mentor, to mentor you in that space, get you, help you move around, or if you call in, leave a message if it's after hours for the legislator, or otherwise you might talk to the secretary. You got options, and however you want to choose to handle it. Listen, it's the Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network. That's DCAN. That's they lead that charge and locally with that. And it's, you said something that it was so great that it bothered me, and I'm gonna tell you why it bothered me. Because you said something I wish I say it. Like every once I hear something like, oh, I wish I would have wrote that. So what you said was, activism is not a spectator sport. That is fire. That is hard right there. I said, right, tell them. So you got to get active if you're going to be an activist. How about that? So.
Right though.
So with that said, I feel like now it's time for me, as I wrap this up, I got to do the same thing that I typically do. I got to say, if you give me a word, I give you a poem. So can you please go ahead and give me a word?
Justice.
Justice. Okay. Let me see. Justice. All right. I'm thinking I used to ask for it. They never gave it to me. Okay. I'll be like, please? Nah, not even a little bit, none for me. Okay, right? And then I yelled for it, and they still said no. So now when I'm screaming for it, they like, why is he so angry? All of a sudden, they just don't know. Okay, fine. They tell me that if I move the wrong way, they will judge me by what? Probably not the same scale, if you can't tell, as they tend to judge whatever they choose to call the majority, because I tend to look a little, move a little, talk a little different than what they want me to. I see. Please believe. I understand that. You could ask me where it comes from. I could say that it's systemic. But I know how it gets, so it might be a little bit more than that because classism is just as easy as racism when I want to make sure that you can sit while the richer get rich. Excuse me, I didn't mean to dispense. The cartel gets it. Either way, you feel it, right? I just know that you shouldn't be offended unless the shoe fits it. Okay. So now when I'm tired of asking for it, you told me to just write that letter. So now we were tired of marching for it. You said, well, you should calm down and just walk more. Maybe that'll make it better. Okay, so now when my brain is getting crazy and I'm ready to pull my hair out because every time we say this is our line and we just try to pass that bar, you tend to pull that veto out. Fine. While I'm driving, you can tell me to roll down mine and then say, what's that smell? I think I smell something. I need you to sit your behind on that curve. That's my word. While you go through everything and get on my last nerve, this is my word. This is what I get to do with all because I enjoy it a little bit, and that's what you choose to be, what you choose to call me while you're the judge, the jury, and oh, I forgot. It doesn't get to the citizens because we don't get to determine what's justice. That's it. All right. Shouts out. You know. I appreciate you for that. Is there anything you want to say to the people on the way out before we get out of here?
I think I said pretty much everything. I mean, there's so much to this. I mean, I could literally go on forever, but just we can't take no for an answer. We have to all work together to get this done, and it doesn't stop at these bills. There's so much more that we still have to, advocate for, and we have to make sure that, all the arrests stop, not just for possession, but for any cannabis offense that there is. I mean, no victim, no crime. I mean, it's as simple as that. And it's time to end this policy. I mean, there's so many things I could say, but just contact your elected officials, please. Let them know that we're not taking no for an answer, and that we're going to do this for as long as it takes, and that you're one of the 70% that want to legalize cannabis and end cannabis prohibition. I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for us, including coming to testify at our bill hearings and speaking at our rallies. And thank you so much for having me on, G. I appreciate this so much.
No problem. Wait, when's the next rally or march or walk situation? I know there's a cleanup situation coming on the 18th, but what's the next situation that what you got? Is that the next one? Talk to me.
Well, we're waiting to hear if there's going to be a bill vote in the next couple weeks, and then we're going to drop a lobby day. So we're going to ask people to join us for the bill vote. And in the meantime, next week, next Tuesday, they go back in a session. We need to be blowing their phones up, ringing them off the hook, just letting them know, like, this has to happen. Stop blocking the legislation. Just pass it already. We already had 21 states. By next Tuesday, it could be 22. Oklahoma could legalize before Delaware. They had voter referendum. They're voting on it at the polls next Tuesday. So, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous, so just keep fighting.
Absolutely. Okay, we keep fighting. Listen, keep moving. It does. Is there a rally next Saturday? Did you know about?
Was it? No.
Next Saturday?
I don't
No?
know.
I know that there's a cleanup on the 18th that they're doing. What I'll say is also, in case you don't, if you enjoy what I do, listen, come see me, Oddly Dope. Listen, I'm highly dope. It's me and Naja Nicole. We create the whole experience. So you should come out. Listen, it's going to be a vibe. It's going to be at the Oddity Bar, March 19th. The Delphi Group is sponsoring it. It's brought to us by the Delaware Music Network, but the Delphi Group is sponsoring the situation because they got Up in Smoke happening. And that's April 28th. So they're going to have tickets to that at Oddly Dope. So if you come to Oddly Dope, you're going to see me spit some words, not just sing some things, and get yourself some tickets. Listen, have a good time. That's all I'm saying. That's the plan. For now, other than that, I'll be back next week with Hats Off, 7:30, only on IG Live. The replay of this is on YouTube. We'll be on YouTube, you know what I mean, a couple days or something like that shortly. All right, with that said, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Zoe, for coming out. It's been fun. And
Awesome.
Yes, good times. And everybody, y'all have a good evening, all right?